The box arrived on a Tuesday. Nothing remarkable at first glance, just weathered walnut wood sitting on my porch step, afternoon shadows stretching across its brass hinges like fingers reaching for something lost. Maya found it before I did. She was already in her pajamas when she spotted it through the screen door. "Mom, there's something here. It has Grandma Rose's name on it." I was halfway through reheating leftover pizza when she called out. The kind of bone-deep tired that only comes after pulling a double at the station. 24 hours of cardiac arrests and kitchen fires and one apartment blaze that took 3 hours to contain. I looked over the rim of my beer bottle, hesitated for just a beat, and said, "Bring it inside, Maya." She obeyed immediately, bare feet padding against the hardwood. I caught a glimpse of her face, curious but cautious, dark hair falling across her cheek. The box wasn't large, but it had weight to it. Solid wood, carved roses along the edges, and a small brass nameplate that read, "Rose Kowalski, EST 1952, in delicate script. Maya plopped down cross-legged on the rug in front of the couch, set the box in her lap, and looked up at me for permission. "Can I?" she asked, already running her finger along the brass latch. I nodded. "Go ahead." She lifted the lid like it might contain something alive. Inside, the box was divided into neat compartments lined with faded floral paper. Recipe cards filled every section.
Hundreds of them.
Some typed on ancient index cards, others handwritten in the careful cursive I remembered from childhood birthday cards. Maya pulled out the first card and read aloud. "Grandma Rose's pierogi serves a family in need." She looked up. Did great-grandma really make pierogi? I crossed the room before I realized I was moving. "She made everything from scratch," I said, taking the card gently. The paper felt thin between my fingers, edges worn soft from handling. "Your great-grandmother survived the Depression. She could make a feast from flour and hope." Maya had already turned back to the box, searching through the sections. She pulled out another card, this one different. Cream-colored instead of white, written in blue ink.
She squinted at it.
"Recipe for courage when the ground shakes." She looked up, confused. "Is this like earthquake preparedness?" My heart didn't drop right away. It rose first, just a flutter of recognition. I reached for the card and took it carefully from her fingers. The handwriting was unmistakably Grandma Rose's, but this wasn't a food recipe. It read, "When everything you built starts crumbling, remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's making dinner anyway. Ingredients: 1 deep breath, 2 steady hands, 3 reasons to keep going. Mix until tomorrow feels possible." I'd seen cards like this before. Not exactly, but something close enough that my skin remembered before my mind did. The careful words, the metaphor wrapped in practicality, the way hope was disguised as instruction. Maya was already pulling out more cards, spreading them across the coffee table like a deck of revelations. Recipe for sleeping when the world won't stop spinning. Grandma's remedy for a heart that won't stop breaking. How to feed a family when you're running on empty. "These aren't cooking recipes," Maya said, voice soft with discovery. I didn't answer right away. I picked up another card, this one titled "Recipe for Raising a Daughter Alone, Serves One Stubborn Woman." The handwriting was different, newer. Not Grandma Rose's careful script, but something I recognized with a sharp intake of breath. My mother's handwriting. The static started then, that familiar crackle, when one memory triggers all the others like dominoes falling. I reached for more cards, hands trembling slightly. Half were Grandma Rose's emotional recipes from decades past. The other half were written in my mother's hand, recent additions that shouldn't have been there. Maya looked up again. "Mom, you okay?" I nodded slowly, but it wasn't true. "I just need to check something." I stepped out onto the porch, box tucked under my arm like evidence. The air smelled like October, sharp leaves, and cooling concrete. I pulled my phone from my back pocket, scrolled to contacts. My mother's name blinked up at me. We hadn't spoken in 8 months. Not since the divorce was finalized and she'd said, "If you tried harder, maybe David wouldn't have left." I didn't press call. Not yet. Instead, I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed, "Received unsolicited delivery of deceased grandmother's recipe box. Contents appear to have been tampered with. Unknown party has been adding materials without permission." It wasn't about the legalities. Not really. But structure helps when the rest of you is spiraling, and I needed something solid to hold on to while my past rearranged itself in my hands. Back inside, Maya had organized the cards into piles. Food recipes on one side, life recipes on the other. She looked up with the serious expression she'd inherited from me. "The life ones are newer," she observed. "Someone's been writing in Grandma Rose's box." I sat beside her on the floor. "What makes you think that?" She held up 2 cards side by side. "The ink's different. And look." She pointed to a card titled, "Recipe for Loving a Daughter Who Thinks She Knows Everything." This one mentions cell phones. Great-grandma died when you were in high school, right? Before cell phones were really a thing. Smart kid. Too smart sometimes. I picked up the card she'd indicated, written in my mother's careful print. "When your daughter won't return your calls, keep cooking her favorite meals anyway. Freeze them in portions. Love doesn't expire, even when it goes undelivered." The room felt too small suddenly. I stood, card still in my hand, and walked to the kitchen. Maya followed, hovering in the doorway with the uncertainty children get when they sense adult emotions they can't name. "Did Grandma Karen write some of these?" she asked. I nodded, unable to speak around the tightness in my throat. "Are you mad?" I set the card on the counter, pressed my palms flat against the surface. "I don't know what I am." That night, after Maya went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with the entire contents of the box spread before me. The food recipes were exactly what I remembered: Grandma Rose's Depression-era cooking, heavy on starches and creativity. But interspersed throughout were her other recipes. Instructions for surviving. Recipe for starting over at 40, preparation time a lifetime. How to sleep when your husband leaves, serves one broken heart. Grandma's guide to raising children during wartime, adjust portions as needed. And then, this wasn't just a recipe box. It was a conversation spanning decades. Grandma Rose writing down survival strategies during the Depression, World War II, raising 5 children alone when Grandpa died young. My mother adding her own recipes for surviving divorce, single motherhood, watching your children make choices you didn't understand. The next morning, I called in sick to the station. I needed time to process what I discovered, and Maya had questions I wasn't ready to answer. We spent the morning making Grandma Rose's pierogi from scratch, following her original recipe card word for word. As Maya rolled dough at the counter, she asked, "Why don't you and Grandma Karen talk anymore?" I paused in my potato mashing. "It's complicated, baby." "The recipe cards aren't complicated," she said. "They're just honest." That afternoon, Maya disappeared to her room and returned with something hidden behind her back. She pulled out an index card, cream-colored like the others, with her careful 3rd-grade handwriting across the top. "Recipe for when your mom and grandma are both too stubborn. Serves everyone." The card read, "Ingredients: 1 phone call, 2 people who miss each other, 3 words that are hard to say. Mix together before it's too late. Warning: may cause tears, but the good kind." I stared at the card for a long time. Then I kissed the top of Maya's head and reached for my phone. My mother answered on the 2nd ring. "Barbara, is everything okay?" "I got Grandma's recipe box," I said. Silence. Then, "I wondered if they'd send it to you. You've been adding to it." "Yes." Her voice was quiet. "I hope you don't mind. I found it after she died, and it felt wrong to let it end with her. So I kept writing recipes. For things I was going through. Things I thought might help." "Why didn't you just call me?" Another pause. "Because you stopped answering." That hit like a physical weight. Because it was true. After the divorce, after her comment about trying harder, I'd built walls so high even I couldn't see over them. I read your recipe for watching your daughter choose the hard path, I said. Did it help? I don't know yet. But Maya wrote her own recipe today. I could hear my mother's breath catch. What did it say? I read Maya's card aloud. When I finished, my mother was crying. Soft, almost silent tears I could hear in the way her breathing changed. I miss you, she said finally. I miss her. I know I said things I shouldn't have. I know I don't understand your job or why you had to leave David or why you have to run toward fires when everyone else runs away. But I'm trying to learn how to be proud of things I don't understand. I missed you too, I whispered. I just didn't know how to say it. That weekend, my mother came over for dinner. She brought groceries and Grandma Rose's stand mixer, the one I'd forgotten existed. We cooked together, following recipes from the box, both old and new. Maya helped, standing on a chair to reach the counter, flour in her hair and joy on her face. As we worked, my mother pulled out a new card she'd written the night before. Recipe for second chances, best served warm. The ingredients list included forgiveness, humility, and the courage to show up anyway. Before she left that night, I handed her a card I'd written. Recipe for building bridges requires two people willing to meet in the middle. She read it, smiled, and tucked it into the box alongside all the others. Maya hugged her grandmother goodbye and whispered something I couldn't hear. Later, when I asked what she'd said, Maya grinned. I told her I want to learn how to write recipes too, for when I'm older and need to remember how to be brave. That night, I added my own card to the box. Recipe for legacy. Pass it on before you think you're ready. Because that's what I learned. Legacy isn't something you leave behind when you die. It's something you build every day, one conversation, one meal, one moment of courage at a time. The recipe box sits on my kitchen counter now, always within reach. Sometimes Maya adds cards. Sometimes my mother stops by with a new recipe for handling whatever life has thrown at her lately. And sometimes, late at night when the world feels too big and uncertain, I pull out Grandma Rose's card for courage when the ground shakes. I read it like a prayer, like a promise, like a recipe for tomorrow. And then I make dinner anyway because that's what the women in my family do. We feed people. We show up. We write down the instructions for survival and pass them along to the next generation, one recipe at a time. If you're still here, subscribe for more stories about the recipes that really matter.